So Finn, how did you pick Westport?
Well, I suppose it's like asking somebody how they picked the love of their life. You know, I don't see how you can go wrong with Westport. Even if you're passing through, it's the kind of place you might stop for a bite of lunch or something and never leave. It's an incredibly appealing place. So, but in practical terms, my wife's people on my father-in-law's people would be from Westport and Newport and from Streamstown, and I believe he was born in Westport but grew up in Newport.
What was his name?
Frank Kane. So he might go by Frank Keen outside of these parts, but Frank Kane would be, he was in the show band scene, so people might know him from the Shannon show band. I think he was in the Shannon show band. And he has a house out in Newport on the Glenhest Road. And Mary, my mother-in-law, is from Leitrim. So the west of Ireland was always part of Fiona's life. So as long as I've been going out with and then married to Fiona, we've been coming to the west.
Because you're from Dublin yourself.
I'm from Dublin, yeah.
It's a big change, isn't it?
Well, I grew up in Dalkey, so Dalkey and Westport, similar scale.
They're a bit of
yeah,
there. Yeah.
They are. They're by the sea as well. I grew up by a harbour, so not a million miles away from the quay, and you have Dalkey Island, you have the islands here in Blue Bay. We don't have the reek in Dalkey. Definitely Westport scores higher there. And
what's the strong features of Westport, would you think?
Well, the people, and I suppose the attitude of the people. There's an amazing can-do attitude here that in so many different ways people put their heads together to do something and it happens. You know, there's amazing power, social power here. I like the way that different generations interact, and I did find in America sometimes that because it's driven by economics, you know, it's a very capitalistic country, that unfortunately it can happen that the rich can segregate themselves away from the poor. So you really only in certain places find that rich and poor and middle class people will mix together, almost because they're forced to. But as the population spread out, the further west you go, they can self-segregate or segregate economically, which in a way that's unhealthy. And young people, children, old people might not mix as much as they do here, which I think is a cause for regret if they don't.
When you were in Las Vegas, did you use the city much? The strip? Did you go down the strip
You
much?
would, yeah. Life would take you down there. It wasn't something that you passed through on the way to work. I didn't have to. I suppose it's just a departure from reality. It's fun, but you couldn't take it too seriously or you'd be sunk.
But it's a huge business.
A massive business, yeah. I mean, even the nightclubs, I mean, the scale of the place is phenomenal, the amount of money they're making. Of course, the fact that it's, I mean, you know, you can't be too judgmental about it, but the fact that it's all about money and appearances, after a while, I think becomes a little soul-destroying. But it's great fun to visit, because the trick is to visit and really have a strict cap on what you spend. You know, if you don't, you could end up spending your house because nobody is going to stop you. Yeah.
Has it a life? Has it a heart? The city?
It does.
Las
Well,
Vegas.
I think where people gather, some very fine people I met grew up in Las Vegas, and they're the most balanced, sound, lovely people. But there's a lot of transience there, and the political structures are very weak. The state itself has very little, raises no tax actually. Basically the casinos bankroll
Everything.
what there is there. Yeah, and the social safety net is largely absent.
The residential section is kind of separate from the strip.
It is, yeah.
It's out
Yes.
country a bit, yeah.
Yeah. It's the sprawling suburbs, you know.
Big population there now, yeah?
I suppose would it be 2 million now? It was 500,000 when we first visited, but it just multiplied out.
So they have all the services and education and all that kind of stuff.
Education is not great though, unfortunately.
Have universities?
I did teach in the university in Las Vegas. You know, you get some extraordinary people there. Voya Siinka was teaching there, a great African writer who won the Nobel Prize, and is a great, almost Nelson Mandela of Nigeria, in the sense that an extraordinarily brave man who stood up to tyranny and was thrown in jail for years as a result. So you get some extraordinary people teaching in the university, but as a university compared to the great universities in America, it wouldn't rate, unfortunately.
And was there much of a social scene there?
There's a lot of clubbing and things like that. I wasn't really clever at the time. I was going to Chuck E. Cheese or wherever the kids' parties were.
Was there an Irish community there?
There's always a small Irish community. So
everywhere, yeah.
Yeah. And
did they have a clubhouse or a centre?
There'd be different pubs, and there's Irish people there. Yes, yeah. In fact, a fellow I went to school with turns up there. It's amazing. But that's.
And what would they tend to work it out there? Would they be all down the strip mostly?
Yeah, the strip would be a big employer. Real estate was a big employer when I was there, but the bottom fell out of that market completely.
Even there?
Oh yeah, possibly worse than here. It completely collapsed. There was parallels between what happened in Nevada and what happened in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I suppose one big difference is that it's a truly single currency market, the United States, in that, you know, the Federal Reserve, if Nevada needs dollars, there's no bailout program. You know, you don't make the Nevadans suffer in the process of writing the currency. Unlike Ireland, being part of the Eurozone, we were forced into onerous austerity measures that we weren't really party to, you know, even though the crisis wasn't entirely of our making here in Ireland. We certainly didn't help matters, but we were just behaving in the way humans will behave. But anyway, yeah, Nevada and Ireland mirrored each other to some extent in their experience, and the real estate or property market collapsed, yeah.